Welcome to Ashland's International Day of Peace celebration. I wanted to say that first in any case any of you thought we were giving out iPhone 5s here. We're not. So this is a creature of another nature. It's something about peace in our world, and it's something about peace in our hearts. My name is Eric Sirotkin. I'm a mediator, lawyer, and peace worker here in Ashland, and I'm the executive director of the Ubuntu Works Peace Education Project. And Ubuntu comes out of the notion in South Africa that started the Truth Commission. I worked for a couple years with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. And in the statute, it said there shall be Ubuntu rather than victimization. And I asked Desmond Tutu once, what does that mean, that idea of Ubuntu? And he smiled. He said, there's no direct translation in Western terms, but it means that I am human through my relations with other humans. What I do to you, I do to myself. And that everything is connected. He said the solitary individual is a contradiction in terms. And he says we are separate, we are connected. And that's what the International Day of Peace is about. It's about remembering our Ubuntu, if you will. I want to start by thanking a couple of the organizers for this event. Herb Rothschild from Peace House, who's here. Many of you know. And he'll be coming up to lead us in the second part of this program. And then David Wick, who for years has worked with the group Pathways for Peace and also for creating a culture of peace. And David's a local Ashland resident, and David has been invited by the Chinese government and had to fly to China to be part of the International Day of Peace celebration in China today. Which is very exciting for him, of course, but it's exciting for what it means for our world. It means that all over the world at this time, we are taking important steps for peace. Concrete steps, moments of silence, moments of reflection, and internal dialogues to help us become the peacemakers that the world truly needs. Now, David has a message I wanted to read that I got from him here. And he said, this is a very dynamic and far-reaching 30th anniversary of the International Day of Peace, with engagement from Rotary International, Mayors for Peace, 5,400 member cities, including Ashland, International Cities for Peace, and many, many more. And he talks about that global perspective. He talks about the importance. He says participating in the annual observance is important, but mainly as a reminder that we are part of one beautiful, fragile world and the way of life that awareness calls us to. We must make peace building part of our daily living within ourselves, our families, our workplaces, our neighborhoods, our larger world. The future of humankind depends on such a commitment. So I'm so happy to see all of you out here today to renew your commitment, because the Day of Peace is not about one day, a moment of silence that we're going to join with the rest of the West Coast in at midnight here, and that we're going to be sending broadcast over Peace Day TV later. That moment of silence is not just what peacemaking is about. It's what you do with it inside, how you choose to live your life. You know, Gandhi said there is no path to peace, right? He said, peace is the way. Peace is the way. Our government spends a lot of time trying to find the steps toward peace, trying to say we're working toward peace, we're setting the roadmap to peace. But we often say we must find other ways because we must first start from a premise of peace. Through the Ubuntu Works Peace Education Project, I've been honored to go to North Korea 4 times and to South Korea and to Washington. And I was meeting with the State Department a few weeks ago and with Congress trying to get some common sense spoken there about the conflict in Korea, where we've not had a peace treaty and resolution for 60 years. But the point is, it's because they've never worked from the point of peace. They're working from the point of conflict. And it's time that we work everywhere to break down the us versus them that has been dictating our world across this planet and through our government here at home. And so, as a lawyer and a mediator, it's something I hold dear to my heart. Abraham Lincoln said the nobleness of lawyering is peacemaking. And it's really true. It's because it isn't about us versus them. It's a journey to help heal conflict. And there are lawyers who are doing that creatively all around the world as well, hundreds and thousands of cities and such. And so what I wanted to tell you briefly about what the day means to me, because, and I'll do it by telling you a story. In 1994, I was a UN election observer in the elections in South Africa when Nelson Mandela was elected. And at that time, in the weeks before, a group of mediators we went with into the countryside where there had been conflicts, where they were actually mediating conflicts in advance of the election in South Africa. The reason for this, well, we'll get to the reason, but what was going on? We went to this one village where there was a conflict between a village and the local township. And there had been several deaths in the days before. And there was real anger about where the polling station was going and what was going to happen there. And so we went into the village and we went into this conference room, and in came one side from the tribe and in came the other side from the township. And they sat down very upset and very angry. And the mediator worked with them and talked to them and listened, because listening is the key that we need to do. And they listened, and finally they recognized their common interests. Their common interest was to have a free and fair election that went smoothly. And in that township and in that area and throughout almost all of South Africa for 3 days of voting, the violence stopped. The violence stopped. And why? Because they said they were creating an atmosphere for a free and fair election. Creating an atmosphere. So I contend to you that that's what we're doing here today. When the peace choir sings, when you come here, when you commit to do an act to reduce the violence in our world and our community around us, you take a step for peace. As Bobby Kennedy said remarkably to a South African audience, he said, when people come together from a million angles of daring and opportunity, and they can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. And that's what you can do here, because we must set an atmosphere for world peace. We must do it in our hearts. We must do it in our homes and our communities. We must do it with our voices. We must do it with all of our relationships between the Mitakwe Oyesin to all our relations, and recognize the oneness, the Ubuntu in the world today. So thank you all for being here. I have, while the choir is coming on here, I want to introduce to you someone who probably doesn't need introduction to most of you, and that is the mayor of Ashland, John Stromberg. John?
This may sound slightly funky, but I have a brother-in-law who, can you hear me now? Good. My wife is cringing. I'm just talking about my brother-in-law, who is a Vietnam vet and one of the finest people I know. And he has a saying, I'm just a dumb farmer, but. And I sort of feel today, after listening to Eric's eloquence and covering every facet of peace and peacemaking that I've been able to imagine, and I have to give a talk in 2 minutes from now, I'm just a dumb mayor. I'm here trying to figure out how to help hold this community together and find ourselves and find our identity and be able to work together. So let's just keep in mind as we prepare for the moment of peace, the moment of silence. Moment of silence, what of peace? Anyway, some moment of silence, moment of peace. That with technology's assistance, for a brief period, we will be connected with people all over the world. And I think that what we should do is sort of in our imagination, start imagining someplace in the world that you've been as far from here as you can think. And imagine those people that you met and think some of them might even be joining us. Because all the good things that happen in the world, I'm convinced, happen through person-to-person relationship. And that's where you start building peace out of expressing respect for each other. I don't mean verbalizing it, I mean living it and demonstrating. From Ashland, Oregon, all of us here are joining people all over the world in a moment of silence, a moment of peace. Thank you.
Ancient eyes are watching in the night. A star comes out to guide the way. Despite the clouds, and the dawn is dusk, is dawn, is dusk, is day. Mothers dream to rise and lead the world awaits to feed the heart. Heart beats while bells and flags are waving. Because we cherish life, and believe it or not, as turning as it may seem, it is not an empty dream to walk in a powerful life, and like the rivers of the last, the great peace march. Life is a great and mighty march, forever for love and for life from the great peace march.
must say, it is I've never been that close to a choir singing with that kind of feeling before, and it's like, it's astonishing. I'm going to read the proclamation now that was read at the council meeting Tuesday night. Proclamation. In 1981, the United Nations proclaimed the International Day of Peace to be, quote, devoted to commemorating and strengthening the ideals of peace, both within and among nations and peoples. In 2001, the United Nations declared that International Day of Peace should also, quote, be observed as a day of global ceasefire and nonviolence, an invitation to all nations and people to honor a cessation of hostilities for the duration of the day, unquote. The International Day of Peace gives everyone the opportunity to make peace in their own relationships as well as impact the larger conflicts of our time. This year's theme is Sustainable Peace for a Sustainable Future, which reminds us that a sustainable future requires lasting peace. This year, Ashland will celebrate International Peace Day on September 21st, 2012, starting at 11:45 a.m. at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival Green Show stage. Therefore, as the mayor of the city of Ashland, I do hereby proclaim September 21st, 2012 as International Day of Peace in Ashland, and call upon the citizens of Ashland to consider how they can contribute to peace in their own lives and in the world at large. And the entire city council joins me in this proclamation.